See, everything is just, everything's going wrong today. Everything is going wrong today. Um, right, we should have audio. We should have audio. We should have audio. We should have audio. We should have audio now. Um, Mate, what an absolute mare. What an absolute nightmare. All right, so now we can hear you. Yes. I don't even sound my enthusiastic self. So I've got Ryan from Android Authority as well as Damien from 9 to 5 Google with me tonight. I'm going to switch over to them. Hopefully they ain't do nothing ridiculous since it's live. So giving them a bit of warning to be ready to talk. So yeah, they can come off mute now, I guess.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Mate, the amount of technical difficulties, right? Discord.
No difficulties in our end, so.
Mate. So guys, say hi to everyone and thank you for joining the stream.
Yeah, hello. Good evening. Happy Sunday.
Oh, happy Sunday indeed. My goodness. Mate, I feel deflated just going through all of those technical difficulties just to start with. So I don't even know. Again, we know what topics we're going to do tonight. So officially the OnePlus 7T Pro and the McLaren edition was made official 3 days ago, Thursday, at London Magazine North Greenwich, with the complete 7T series now with official UK pricing. And the nice thing about UK is when we price it, we add the tax to it. So you know that's exactly what you're spending, right? No confusion.
Unless you buy online, though, to be fair, when you buy online in the States, you don't have to pay your state tax, do you?
No. So
to buy online, the state tax is included, but if
yeah,
it's bought in store, they have to pay.
in store they have to.
Still a bit ridiculous, but
it's just long. It's just long. So we're gonna talk about the complete 7T series, in its full kind of recap glory, with the event recap as well, because I think the event was sick. I think how they did the event was really, really good. Then we're also going to talk about the potential Essential Phone 2 or the GEM or the GEM project. So there were a lot of, not leaks even, like this was just from Essential themselves showcasing what they've been working on with this 21:9. It looks like a 21:9 aspect ratio kind of candy bar design. And also, since the price leaks have come out in US dollars or Canadian dollars for the Pixel 4 and the Pixel 4 XL, in the next 2 days, we all just kind of want to share our opinion of whether it's dead on arrival or it's sitting pretty sweet to really do something based on what we know about the specs and everything about the phone. So we're going to make this an hour. We're going to sweep through this quickly because you guys have been waiting. We've been waiting. We've got stuff to do. Tomorrow's another day. We want to have a good night's sleep and chill for a little bit as well. So yeah, Ryan, Damien, let's kick it off. So you guys were at the event as well. Actually, before I start, let me record. Today's live stream, yeah, is jarring me to a different level. All right, SSD's recording. So yeah, as always, man, tune in for the cut down series as well, where all these topics will be cut down and condensed. And again, your live stream is brought to you in 4K UHD. So click that gear icon if you've got the bandwidth and the settings. Watch it in 1440p or 2160 UHD. Yeah, guys, you guys were both at the event. You both pretty much did either hands-on or some full reviews in some capacity, and I always like to be, kind to my guests. So I'm gonna pass it over to, I'll say Ryan first because you had it as a review, and then I'll pass it over to Damien to give me more the impressions of the event and its coverage. So over to Ryan. What is your take on the 7T Pro?
It's just a slightly upgraded 7 Pro. Like, I couldn't tell the difference between the two in my usage. We did lots of testing, internal testing. I can't give exact details, but the 7T Pro did perform better significantly with the battery. Other than that, it just felt like the same phone, to be honest. which is a good thing because the 7 Pro is actually a very, very good phone. So I'm not saying it's like extremely boring and bad. I'm just saying if you already had the 7 Pro, the 7T Pro is basically identical. And if you hadn't used it before, it's a fantastic phone. It's a really, really good phone. It hasn't got the big 12 gig of RAM model. That's reserved for the McLaren edition, as we've seen, which costs a little bit more. But I feel like you don't really need more than 8. Saying that, I think at this price range, you need to have those options. If you don't have those options, you're just missing out to the crowd. And you know, some people, like I've seen like a lot of people react to that McLaren edition, and they don't like the way it looks, but they want the 12 gig of RAM, and they don't have that option. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, as a general phone, it's very good. Cameras are good. Screen is good. I think the event was really good, but I think the thing that
Was
kind
it
of
good?
hit
Was
me,
it?
it was good. The thing that hit me was that when they presented it, they've really overhyped it. Like I know they have to because they're trying to sell you a product, right? But they were saying like, and I don't know if this was just a mess up, like a mistake on their behalf, or if they actually thought this through. But they presented the 7T and then the 7T Pro, and then the 7T they said this is the most powerful camera system we've ever put into a phone. Then they moved over to the 7T Pro and didn't say that, even though on paper the 7T Pro's actually got a slightly better camera than the 7T. So I mean, I don't know if it was just a bit of a I don't know how to say this without swearing because I'm British, but like, let's say they messed up. Like, I don't know if they just messed up or if something, you know, underlying is that it's more powerful than the 7T. It doesn't seem that way. You know, it loses out a couple of aspects, but as an overall package, I think the way that they marketed out did it a couple of aspects as quite as good this time around. Because like I said in my review, the groundbreaking thing was the 7 Pro, which was earlier this year.
Yeah, May this year. Yeah.
Yeah, so the last generation or last half a generation, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people say that they want to see OnePlus go back to to before the 3T, so one every year, because they're so iterative and I think they're being sold to people that aren't going to upgrade their phone just for a spec bump. As we've seen, the difference between the 7 and the 7T is pretty massive.
Do you think that? Sorry to interject.
Yeah,
do you think that's good for people who maybe are looking to kind of hold off their purchase a little bit longer? So you know, when you buy either the 7 or the 7T Pro, you're buying something that's going to last an exponential amount of time compared to most smartphones because of what they have under the hood. So when you, for an example, I don't want to use Dave as an example, but Dave still has a 3T. And I had a little play with it, and I hadn't used the 3T for a long time. But that phone does not feel steps behind other devices that you get for under, what, 300 quid?
I think you can pick one up for like 150 quid.
But I feel like in some regards that might be a better purchase than it would be buying, say, the Moto G7, for instance. Because
oh yeah, for sure. That's
in my opinion,
what my channel's been about for the past 5 years.
Oh yeah, true.
But
so you're in agreement?
Yeah, I would say that the fact that I believe it's the 5 and the 5T. I'm not sure if it's just the 5T. It's getting Android 10. That's
ridiculous.
That's so good. I mean, like when we were at the event, like, you know, the crowd kind of roared at that, and I think for a lot of them, the reaction of the crowd was a bit overly much. But for this, like, I'm with them with that, because the fact you're getting Android 10 on the OnePlus 5 is, you know, it's a Snapdragon 835 device. So it's the same era as the Galaxy S8, the LG G6. This is stuff that likely won't get Android 10. And if it does, it's not going to be anywhere near as clean and as polished as OnePlus is going to do with the 5 and 5T, because we've just come to expect that from them now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think you've had you're lucky in some regards, Ryan, because you've kind of had a lot longer with the device than I have. But then again, I've had the 7T standard.
Yeah,
you haven't had. See, for me, the 7T standard is, as far as OnePlus are concerned, is their standout device this year, because as good as the 7 Pro is, it's not a mainline OnePlus device in the traditional sense. So you look at the like you said, the iterative design. What you then do is, with going from the 3 through to the 7, was very iterative, and then a 6-month turnover is it seems quite like drastic. Even though there's not enough design changes between the the main model and then the T model. So obviously the 66T, that's what I mean by that. From 3T to obviously to 5T is massive.
Yeah.
But I think with the 7T standard, you're getting the biggest bump for a long time. And I think a lot of having still owned the 6T, I think it's enough of a bump for you to consider jumping from 6T to 7T. Maybe and the 7 just feels like a forgotten phone that you maybe wouldn't necessarily even consider existing, because
that was a bit of a
I would love to I would love to know what the sales figures for that would be, because while it did make a lot of good quality changes, it did feel like the stopgap of stopgaps. And I think that's what the 7T Pro feels like right now, to me anyway. But again, the 7T Pro is the best OnePlus device technically you can buy right now. So yeah, I think from our perspective, we don't see much changes, but from a consumer perspective, they're going to be looking when they've made the purchases. I don't know if people still buy phones every 2 years or every 3 years. If you've gone from the 5T to the 7T Pro, that's the best phone you're going to buy. So yeah, I think for me, I can completely understand from our internal tech perspective that it feels like the most iterative of updates. But from a consumer perspective, they don't tend to buy in the same sort of cycles that we buy, and they're not ingrained within tech like we are.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to hear what Ben says as well, because obviously, Ben, you've been on the inside of it a little bit more.
Way more. Way too much. I think the opinions on it are very fair in terms of the looking at it from an upgrade perspective, but let's talk about what those differences are, right? So it's got the new, and I think a lot of people are forgetting that the new focuser motor in the ultra wide angle camera that's doing the macro photography, that's one. Snapdragon 855, that's another. Warp Charge 30T, that's another. A slightly bigger battery, that's another. At that price point, there wasn't anything more really they could have done, because it's literally the technology that they've got access to, right? That E2 panel, it's not an E3 panel where it gets as bright as 1000 nits, but it's 800 nits peak. But I mean, the benefit is that you can put a high resolution into those, whereas not that the resolution on the 7T is not higher, but it's at least brighter. So it's a toss up, and it's a give and take. The real question is like that you kind of have to understand the design language that went into the McLaren. It's more not because of OnePlus. It's more because it's based on that TPT carbon fiber material look of the McLaren Speedtail. So if you know the Speedtail, it's I'll try and find a picture. But the McLaren.
Am I right in thinking that's called an Alcantara design? Is that right? Is that the design?
No,
Alcantara.
No. So
that's on the case.
That's the case. So
so the case is Alcantara. Okay.
Yeah, the case is Alcantara, but the actual squiggly patterns, that's based on the TPT carbon fiber material. That's how TPT carbon fiber looks like. It looks, there's different ways carbon looks like.
I quite like it. I was really digging it. The way I thought when I saw it initially was it looked like someone running through an oily puddle, with a tire mark. It looked like a tire mark in an oily puddle, and I kind of dig that a little bit. I think at least there's some sort of differentiation between the models, because they could quite easily do a really basic, like obvious kind of aesthetic change, and then charge a higher price. But it does seem like the price is justified because you do get an entire new accessory kit. The accessory kit matches the papaya orange that is synonymous with McLaren.
Yeah.
As far as tie-ins go, it feels way more cohesive than, for instance, the Porsche design Mate line, because realistically they just put a stripe down the back of the device and make it leather. There doesn't seem to be any real major differences, even though, you could say it does resemble the main line of the device.
The thing you've got to understand. So I've changed the desktop view, and that's how TPT carbon fiber looks like. That's part of the interior of the McLaren Speedtail. So the Speedtail. So before, the 60 McLaren edition was based on F1, the F1 team, right? This is based on McLaren Automotive. So that's why the McLaren Automotive CEO came on stage rather than the McLaren F1 team CEO, right? The design language went more to the street car, but it's the top line speed one. So it's more about McLaren wanted the craftsmanship to be based on that carbon fiber material design and look, right? And what you have to remember is the price hasn't gone up. The 12 gig RAM option for last time, right, was $799, right? Nebula Blue, that's the only color you could get in 12 gig RAM, 256 gig storage, right? Maybe the only thing I'll probably say is that if they could have had access to 512 gig UFS free storage to make it even more special, but there would have been a price bump, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea was to make the 12 gig RAM version feel more of a special purchase buy. Because in terms of actually the popular buy, people weren't buying that base model 7 Pro. Great price, great specs, 649, right? 6 gig RAM, 128, but no one was buying it because £50 difference, you're getting double the storage and extra 50% more RAM. You see, so an extra 2 gigabytes of RAM, sorry. So it was a logical purchase. So how they've done it now is they've done it as single SKU. It just eliminates any confusion of which one to buy at what price point, right? So it makes the buying decision easier. And to me, it makes the 12 gig one feel more special when you buy it, that you're getting a proper premium packaged phone. I get the look might not be for everyone, but it's literally like you're working with someone like McLaren, especially if they're gonna come on stage, bring one of their cars, be as involved, they're gonna wanna get signed off to make sure that things look the part and how it's intended to look. I'll definitely say that now that the price is official, when the 5 and the 5T came out 2 years ago, right, to get the same 8 gig 128, it was the same price at 549 that you're getting the 7T. That's the biggest hero story, right? It's the biggest hero story. It's rare that in 6 months there is such a big improvement from one phone to another, i.e. 7 to 7T. But usually, and Samsung suffers the same problem, probably less of a problem because they differentiate their products the best, even though they do too many products. Because we can argue that, the Note is just an S Pen, it's just an S Pen with an S10, whatever, an S series with a pen. That we can always make the argument, but regardless, they've differentiated it, right? But it's still the same problem that they face. Huawei faces the same problem, right? The P series and the Mate series, they're practically based off the same specs with some upgrades or some downgrades depending on what area that they're focusing on. You see, so I think looking at it from 6 months ago, right? I don't see anyone that should be upgrading from 6 months ago, right? They shouldn't.
No, but that's the fact with most devices, isn't it? There isn't going to be isn't very often where you buy something 6 months later. You wouldn't do it with your car unless you have literal money to throw away.
Yeah.
And I think that like the whole thing with what I will say about OnePlus as a brand is, and on the Android side of the fence, is that when you buy a OnePlus phone, usually you're getting the longevity that you don't necessarily get with many other Android phones, because the software is so clean and it's not traditionally stock, is it anymore? Because that doesn't really technically exist, but it's as close as what you would consider in air quotes stock to be, and that means that the hardware limitations are less prevalent, and then you kind of what OnePlus do better than anyone else is really ram as much in as possible, just of everything. So they give you the top tier CPU, they give you as much RAM as humanly possible in tiers that you can afford if you're willing to do it, and it makes it financially viable to buy a phone that's going to last you 4 years. If you're going to do that, I mean, I don't know, it's difficult because I hate the term regular consumer, but you're going to have people who don't buy a new phone every single year. It just doesn't happen. And I think that if you were going to suggest someone to buy a phone and they're buying an Android phone and they want the best experience probably possible, whether or not they want good camera performance and stuff like that, I do genuinely think OnePlus are one of the forerunners for most people.
Well,
are they the most known?
No.
Arguably that's the case,
No,
but
no,
I think that they definitely have a. And I noticed it when you go to the keynotes, is that there's definitely a cult-like Apple approach to things, and that's the best way to go about it in this industry now.
The thing is, they went from, the fact that they're the first to have Android 10 out of the box with no software updates should be a big indication that they are one of the best at doing it. You see, I just feel that this is literally the last swan song to flat screen phones. One, right? For a flat screen phone to be this good at 549, you know, with practically no compromise. I mean, there's going to be things missing, right? But at this price point, specifically at 549, where with inflation, the price of the phone for the spec that you would buy for the OnePlus 5 and the OnePlus 5T 2 years or more ago hasn't. That's the biggest story I want to tell people. The price hasn't gone up. Other manufacturers, their price of their phones have doubled, like actually doubled in some way, or at least gone up by 75%. Somehow, OnePlus's main way of how they do phones, which is really the 7T, like what you're saying, this is their standout product. Out of all the products that they brought out this year in particular, even from the 7 series to now, the 7T is the best one, right? But even just consider that for an ultra premium phone in their eyes, which is the 7T Pro and the McLaren edition, at that price point, I don't see much touching it at the minute. You see, so I think it's
at 550, the only phone that's going to catch it is the iPhone XR. In the public mindset, do you know what I mean? In the public mindset.
In the public mindset, but if we look at,
you're looking at what you get for your money, you're not going to. I would suggest that people get the 70. I think I completely agree with you. There's the competitive nature of OnePlus means that they can grab a market share that maybe necessarily other companies aren't able to capture. And at like you said, at 550, the 7T doesn't really compromise in many areas. It's finally got the camera up to the point where I would consider it probably 7.5 out of 10. The camera flexibility is there. The only thing it does lack a little bit is in the it's not quite as sharp as some of the others out there, even with that 48 megapixel main sensor. That's just my interpretation, but it might just be that I don't take photos in a way that other people can. Because there's people out there who can take photos with the iPhone 7 and they get published. And
I want to interject there because a lot of people don't know this, but those sensors aren't actually 48 megapixels. They're 12 megapixels, and they're being there's a bugger. There's a really good word for it.
It's pixel binning or
pixel binning. That's it. Pixel binning.
Well, yeah, but it still is. You can use the 48 megapixel in Pro mode.
You can, but it's not actually it's using the sensor, but there aren't actually 48 megapixels. There's 12, and they're dividing them into 4, which is great because it means you can capture more detail.
Well, HTC started that, didn't they, with that ultra pixel tech?
But it's not actually there, so like you can't really compare it with a true 48 megapixel sensor. Of course, I don't think there even is one right now, a true 48 megapixel sensor. But there is so you've got to remember that it's actually 12. So if you see a shot that's shot on a 12 megapixel camera and one that's shot on a 48 in that pixel binning mode, and you notice they're similar in sharpness, that'll be what it is, because a lot of the processing is going in the software, or rather a lot of the power of the image is going on the software, not the hardware. And we've noticed this especially with the size of sensors, because that's probably the main difference. The fact that we're getting like almost half-inch sensors now that are 12 megapixels versus old, really, really small sensors that are 12 megapixels. That's the difference, not necessarily the pixel binning. So when you see those two together, that's what you want to point at, because you probably see a massive change in like the clarity of the image, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're seeing more pixels. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The alias is the aliasing, mate.
Yeah, like aliasing.
I completely understand it. Yeah. Like, I appreciate an explanation for people who don't know, but yeah, the idea is that
end result, isn't it?
Yeah, the idea is that you use the bigger your sensor size. Obviously, you should be able to kind of alias down to get their most refined image. And I think for a long time, OnePlus really struggled in there a little bit, but there is definitely no real, like you were saying, Ben, there's no real weak point with the 7T, and I think that's why it becomes
at that price point
really difficult. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. 100%.
I'd say even if OnePlus charged another £100, I still think that's a brilliant.
No, it is. But I'm saying
such a well-rounded package.
But I'm saying the price point makes it even more, because what we have to understand is that OnePlus have the best proven track record on Android to do software updates not just for the phone, but for the camera, when people talk about things that they don't like, not if it's a problem, it's just something they don't like. Then problems, if like there's a problem, for example, you know.
Yeah, they do. The one thing I will say is they do definitely use the community better than any of the business I've ever seen.
So then my point is that if you compare it to other manufacturers that at a much higher price point, they don't do that, right? How much more worth is that 549 that you've now spent on the phone over 2 years, over 3 years, over 4 years? Yeah, that's the beauty of the 7T. It's not that it's a perfect product, but it's more for you're buying a phone that is practically two phones in one because it's dual SIM unlocked, right? You can have features on there where you're able to run like 2 apps of the same version, you know, and the software is as clean as you want it to be. It's as well updated as you want it to be. It's the latest, right? And to be honest, it's probably not just based on design, but in terms of the screen itself, is probably one of the best screens you can find in a smartphone in terms of the actual usable things that you'll notice, i.e. the fluid display at 90 hertz, as well as the brighter panel, because most people can't perceive resolution that well. Others can, but most people can't. So then, you know, because it's a high resolution 1080p display, because of the new aspect ratio, it helps it in its favor as well. So, you know, the 7T, now that the price has come out, I just love the phone even more. It's the easiest recommend that you can put out there for anyone to buy a phone that is easy to use but equally powerful. For me, wrapping up the 7T Pro, I think I'm glad they did it as one SKU, because the 8GB 256 was the only one being purchased, especially in that blue color. Like that's the only one that was selling. All the other colors just weren't selling, which is not a problem.
I like the almond one though. I would have loved to have had got some time with the almond one. I really like
the almond one. I would say is nice. I think probably that's another critique where I feel like maybe they should have done another limited run of the almond color. But the only thing I could probably say to the McLaren one is that the design, I think, is way better, because the previous one was just way too subtle. So the fact that they put more papaya orange and the carbon fiber material, again, it's probably not to everyone's taste, but I think it's better. I think the only thing I would have probably critiqued is the fact that maybe for special edition, the fact that maybe last year, the fact that they couldn't put any more RAM on there to differentiate itself, as in beyond 12 gig, or, you know, even faster charging at maybe 40 watts or 45 watts. I feel like maybe they should have pushed a bit harder to put 512 in there. And not because you need 512, but it's just like it's an even more differentiator, you know?
Yeah.
That's probably
it justifies the price that tiny bit more.
Yeah.
I still think for £800.
Oh, mate, come on.
It's a very, very good.
That's probably my only critique, that I wish maybe they would have just put double the storage in there at 512, just so it's like, yeah, you know? So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think overall the 7T series it's very compelling, and it will lead into what we're going to talk about with the Pixel line, because now it feels like OnePlus in a way have dealt their cards right in front of Google just before they've played out, from being first to Android 10, now having all their devices announced globally, and the pricing. So it's like, okay, we've got everything now. We've laid our cards. What are you saying, Google? You see, it feels that way now, you know. So I don't know how you guys feel about that in terms of your opinions to wrap up the 7T series, but that's how I feel about it.
I think for me, it felt incremental, but then what do you expect? I didn't expect
in 6 months
changes.
Yeah.
What you got to remember is it's still the newest chipset that you can get. So I think for a lot of people, and there's a lot of, it seems to be a very Eastern, especially an Indian tech fan kind of thing that I see on comments on videos, is that if you don't have the latest chipset, you may as well be dead in the water. So I think for a lot of fans out there who really do want the latest and greatest, the bleeding edge of what's available off the shelf, then they've got what they wanted. What else can you ask for? The only thing they can ask for potentially is a slightly better camera system, but they've got one of the best camera systems in a OnePlus device today.
But then Ryan, like what more? That's like, I'll ask you, having when you're in this arena, having the latest of what you can get access to should be part of the compelling marketing. If what is the latest isn't that different, or the performance is only X amount, yes, we can critique it and say it's only X amount better, right? but it is still better. You know, it's part of the marketing of like, if you're gonna sell it at that price point, then why isn't it coming in with the latest things that you can get access to as a manufacturer? Do you get it? You know, so
Yeah.
if they're doing that and they're not charging more and they're keeping the price the same or actually making the price cheaper, right? Remember, the same spec OnePlus 6T last year cost £579. So this is what I mean about in a year, right? With the popular spec that people were buying of the 6T last year, the phone is £30 cheaper.
And with better haptics.
And with much, like,
Yes.
you see,
Because
so
that's one thing that I really thought OnePlus, of course, it's something that you notice day in day out. And I think, although the 7T's haptics aren't quite as good as the 7 Pro,
but it's a bit, it's
bloody good. They
yeah.
are very, very good. It's not rumbly or rattly, because I think that on the 6T they were a little bit rattly.
And like what you're saying, if you look at the latest phones that have come out this year, right? 549 for 8 gig 128, right? And the most powerful Android processor questionably on the market. Compare it to the iPhone 11, yeah? In UK is 729, right? At 729, if you're comparing the difference in terms of, you know, yes.
Brian, mate. Type it.
Oh, the mechanical. If you're looking at it based on, yes, the A13 Bionic chip is a different platform, but 4 gig RAM, 64 gig storage, right? It's a great phone. Don't get me wrong. The iPhone 11 is a great phone, but 549, 729. That's a big gulf. That's a big gulf. I don't care what anyone says.
The thing is now we need. I mean, because I do genuinely think the hardware is fantastic on OnePlus phones. They've come a long way. They were never bad by any stretch, but I think that it would be really nice to see the carriers really back it.
Yeah,
really back OnePlus and start pushing it, because now we've got this vacuum where Huawei are maybe not available as much as they probably should be. Maybe we should have the carriers kind of really pushing.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, because you're getting almost pixel-like experience with.
I say better. I say better. I know it sounds biased, but I say better, because you know what Oxygen always brings in terms of the feature set that is so powerful but so subtle where you don't notice it getting in the way of Android. That balance is not that striking that balance is probably the hardest thing to do, so that you as the end consumer don't realize that it's getting in the way. And this is where I feel they just do a better job. So I don't know, that's my opinion. And overall, I think the 7T series, we're tech enthusiasts and we're always going to expect more when a new model comes out. I just think maybe OnePlus needs to maybe think of a way to differentiate the T series to the normal number series better, so people don't directly think it's going after that product, right? So that it's like, for example, when people compare, let's just say, the Note 10, right? They'll more be looking at the Note 9. Yes, they'll mention the S10, but really in their mind, it's like it's fairer to compare it to, whereas how things are being done, it more looks like, oh, we have to compare it to the previous 7 series, which is also fair with how it's been done. So maybe that's something that they need to do, go back to the drawing board and just find a way to differentiate those two easier for people to just manage their natural expectations a bit better, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think as well that what you got to remember is that, like I said before, this is the first year that OnePlus has had a mainline OnePlus line, which is what I would consider the traditional OnePlus phone. The in air quotes flagship killer. I know they've tried to get away from that in the last few months and years. And then there's a Pro line, because the Pro line is completely new. And even though it seems to me like with the 7T Pro, they've learned from the mistakes that they maybe necessarily made with the 7 Pro, even though there wasn't that many, but it was the first Pro of its kind. There's certain things that they've done. Yeah. So they tweaked the camera. They added the macro mode. They're going to add the wide angle video first to that one, and then eventually to the other series. But these little things that, like, it seems like when you've digested all the information, the launch itself, from an outsider perspective, is probably quite a good. It is a fantastic product launch in a lot of regards, because they did deliver on a lot of promises. Oh, we have the fastest chipset. They've not. It probably seems more like they've settled than they have for a long time, but at least there is some sort of hardware progression with the 7T line at the very least. There's one product that they have really differentiated from previous models. it's got the 90 hertz refresh rate display, the new camera, and the all the little incremental changes that I think have made it more worthwhile. The 7T Pro just seems like a side note because obviously it's not available in the US market, so it does feel like that's just it is a side note to the 7T. The 7T is the talked about device of this year, and I think it's the best product they've made. The color's fantastic. I like the circular camera notch.
Yeah.
I like the fact it's got a flat display. I like the fact that the SD card slot's on the arse of the phone at the bottom. More
SIM
companies
slot.
need to do SIM slot. What did I say? SD card slot. So, yeah, SIM slot is at the bottom. I think that's better than.
I really like that. Yeah, that's like my place to put it.
100%. I can deal with it at the top, but yeah, it's got the new Dolby. Is it Dolby Atmos speakers? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I mean they had it before. The normal 7 did have Dolby Atmos with dual speakers as well. But as in, like, you know, it's back. It's even more improved. Like I said, like what you're saying, I love the colors. I've got the Frosted Silver. It's my favorite one, and yeah, like I'm enjoying. I know dark mode is something that they've had for 2 years since the OnePlus 5, but it just feels better implemented across the UI, and apps like Instagram that have dark mode as well look sick. Personally, I think they've done a good job, and I think they've played three very strong cards to really push them through to Q4 and then tip them over into next year until, you know, May, when they released. You know, I'm predicting that it should be May. It's never been any different, you know, because it's always, again, like, you know, the whole 6-month upgrade cycle thing. It's really just to bring relevance. And if you look at every manufacturer, the only person that doesn't do it is Apple. But even to some extent, you know, they do the
12 months refresh cycle with the S line.
Yeah, so it's, you know, LG with the V to the G series, Huawei with the P to the Mate series, you know, Samsung with the S to the Note series, you know. So it's planting yourself in those relevant points where you have people that upgrade during the beginning summer phase to the winter summer phase. That's it. Because if you don't do that, right, you run into a risk.
You run into you run yourself into a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, and it's more of an Android manufacturer problem, not an Apple problem. Like, Apple are pretty much the exception to the rule because they don't have anyone else that makes iOS hardware apart from them. So they don't have to worry about depreciation or someone else coming in to make their products irrelevant, where they need to be bringing new stuff 6 months, right? And that's a nice peace of mind to have in that sense, because you can take longer to innovate. You can take your time to literally milk it as far as possible, and you can have a higher price point for a longer period of time as much as possible. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys are happy with the 70 series, if you have any more opinions on it. But
no, let's wrap it up.
I got something to wrap it up with. I think we can wrap it up quite nicely. Very short. 2 things. One, bring back the OnePlus X, in my opinion. No need for a comment on it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
No, that's a good shout.
And two, and this might be surprising to a lot of you, as soon as I had finished my review, I put it back in its box, the 70 Pro. It's not interesting to me.
No, I love the 70. I love the 70.
And funnily enough, I've gone to a phone with some pretty terrible software in comparison because I find it more interesting. So,
no, I find the 70 more interesting.
If I did get to try just sorry, really quickly, I did get to try out the 7T at the event, and that looks so much better in my opinion. I think that just looks like such a better buy.
I love the 70. So, as we always do, we run through the comments. There's been a lot of comments flying through, so we'll try and do as quick fire as possible. So let's look back. This is where before everyone was here. Dave West, I like the McLaren styling, but appreciate it's not for everyone. Same. I 100% agree. I'm not sure about the texture of the McLaren version. Seriously, just have a look at the pictures of the McLaren Speedtail, the TPT carbon fiber material. When you're working with McLaren, they're gonna want a big. If you look, the back of the logo doesn't say OnePlus; it says McLaren. You know, so there's a lot of reasoning behind that. You know, so 1 year would be much better. It would be, but I honestly feel like in this market, only Apple can pull off yearly upgrades releases. That's me personally. That's me personally. I might be wrong in saying that, but like I think just the only thing that maybe OnePlus need to do is just find a better way to communicate that the normal number series and the T series are two separate lines away from themselves, right? I think the other manufacturers have communicated that language better. So long as you can feel what you feel afterwards, like the Note, it's an S series with a pen. You can say that, that's fine. But so long as I know normal people that go and buy the Note because they like the pen, or they like the idea that the pen is there, even if they don't use it regularly. They just like the fact that I like Notes, I like the boxier design, and it comes with a pen when I need it, even if I don't use it every single day, right? So they've communicated that better. So I think the 6 month it's just the way the market is right now. Alex Tech Focus, I agree about the 1 per year thing said on my 60 review. No, it's fair. And accumulate used to absolute banger. Found a 7 Pro 425 on eBay. Yeah, that's no surprise. 3T is a classic. Sips on Sports Direct mug. Max J.
What's with the messages retracted? Where do they go?
I have no idea.
Still banging on about that headphone port, man. It's gone.
It's dead.
It's gone. Honestly, it's gone.
1 year with good specs, great design would be awesome. Used the 7 Pro for some time, and I think the 70 Pro was was just published because they had to.
No, I think that's wrong.
No,
There's a little bit of both. It's a bit of both.
They had the tech to put enough of an upgrade.
That's
to
because
keep
it
the
kind
price
of
the same.
they have to do it.
Yeah, if I think it would have hurt them more if they increased the price. But if they're keeping the same price, like what you said, Ryan, if you were going to buy the 7 Pro but didn't get around to buy it, you were gonna spend the same money anyway. You might as well get the 7T. That's all it is. So it just makes it like, well, because you took so long, the price is still gonna be the same, but actually you're getting even faster charging and even more refined camera. Still the same great all-screen design. The pop-up camera is actually more quieter compared to before. Like all these things, if like they've had time to just polish it up for you, we'll give it to you for the same price. And then if you wanted to get the 12 gig one, we've made it even more special with the McLaren edition. So I think that's the way. 7 is an enigma. Welcome Kaiser Reveal. Welcome to the stream, bro. I messaged you already. I think the 7 Pro is a harder sell now because of the 7T. Yeah, and either way, OnePlus win. If you feel it's too expensive, you buy the 7T, you get all the benefits of the Pro, £150 cheaper. That's a decent amount of change to use for something else, and it's just a nicer phone. Not that the Pro is not, but the 7T is just it's a flat screen, man. Flat screen. The macro mode is really, really good. The macro mode is excellent. The macro mode is excellent. It's a nice one-up on, Samsung and Apple. Tech Fuses in the house was good. I really like the new McLaren. I like the 60. I just think the 60 McLaren one was just too subtle in the design. Like you could barely see the carbon. Like it looked like traditional carbon fiber as we know it, but you could barely see it. And the papaya accents was only on the edge. Concept I saw you at the launch, man. Yes, you did. Tech Fuses, yeah. Ben hooked me up. Yeah, I tried to get as many of you guys there as possible. Scratch your ear if you're being held captive. Dave is such a clown. Thinking of what Damien is saying, 3T still runs well. Yeah. At the pop-up event, speaking to OnePlus customers were the most difficult ones to get them to buy the 7T because their old 5s, their old 3s still work so well, which is wow. The only thing you can really tell them is that in that 2 years, like I said, the price of the phone that you bought hasn't gone up, and you're going to get an even better performing phone that will last longer.
To be fair as well, OnePlus phones seem to hold the value better than most Android phones as well.
Yeah, they're pretty
That's
much...
a good point. I think it was when the 6 came out, and I wanted to get the 5T in for a review, and it was basically launch price on eBay used. Yeah,
they do well. They do well. So it's almost like an Apple approach to Android that works for them. right?
Well, yeah, that's why I think they're
That's
doing it
what
well.
he
I think
said,
if they can create a full ecosystem,
Well,
hate the
I
term
mean,
ecosystem,
but
but if they can create a range of devices that all tie together, like the TV, if they do a watch, I think the watch will be the biggest selling Wear OS watch still
no,
ever.
I agree.
Probably.
I agree. I think a watch should be next. Forget doing a tablet because
Dead.
it's dead for Android because that's Google's fault. That's not OnePlus's fault, right?
I really want to see a OnePlus smartwatch.
Yeah, I
If, it, if, it
100%
do,
agree.
if they did oxygen wear or called it something
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
that would be
yeah, it'll
absolutely
bang.
amazing.
you know for a fact that it would
I-
It
absolutely
would
blaze.
bang. It would
100%
bang.
agree. 100% agree.
149 for like the standard model, 199 the
Yeah.
4G model, wherever it is.
I do not disagree, guys. I do not disagree one bit. So that's a good shout. Think of what Damien's saying. Boom, boom, boom. Hasn't kind of the Snapdragon 821, but the super perspective G Cam. Yeah. OnePlus and Nokia are solid in updates. Fact, they're winning. Glenn, the grandson has still got the OnePlus 3 and it's still going. That's just OnePlus for you. Video on OnePlus needs a total refresh though. It's capable and it's capable so much demonstrated with the Gcam. Again, they've got a new R&D center in Taipei for camera specifically, so just know that more work is being put into the camera now. But again, we just I think it's fair to give them a bit of slack, especially when the phone is still coming at 549. I know we want to move away from that excuse of we just want a OnePlus camera to be outright awesome, straight, right? Out of the box without any updates and progressiveness. But at the same time, at that price point, their focus was on having the best software team to do updates and software. The next investment was on display. Arguably, they've got the best displays on the market. And also the internal specs, their relationship with Qualcomm. That's the next one. And then the next one was their battery charging tech. Those were the pillars, right? Now they're realizing, not that they're realizing, but they're realizing that more manpower needs to go into the camera all round because the competition is just so much higher than it ever was before, right? That will come.
I'd say they need to put that into software, not into hardware. They've got the hardware nailed pretty much.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
that's
that-
what we mean. That's what I mean about the R&D is not just the hardware. I mean, like just the whole, just more manpower needs to go there, and they're doing and they've done that. So that's why the 7 series was a perfect example of OnePlus have always been good with camera updates, but that was their best time. That 3 months made everyone think, wow, we say it, they do it. We say it, they do it, and we notice the difference. That was them flexing that, look, we put more manpower. It's only going to get better as we go. So again, like the ultra wide working with video 1080p 30 frames, but there's an update that came with, I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, but the build number for the current one should be coming to your phones where you can shoot 4K 30 frames a second with the ultra wide and the main camera. So I'm going to feed it back to the team and things will just keep getting better and better from there. Yeah, 12,
Well, I mean,
16,
just to go back,
64.
just to go back to the fact that they make good phones. My girlfriend uses a OnePlus 6, and one of her friends uses OnePlus 6 because they think they're fantastic phones, and I was like, so it's quite surprising, people are maybe not tech savvy.
Yeah, my girlfriend has a OnePlus 6.
Yeah,
Morgan's
I mean-
girlfriend has a OnePlus 6.
Yeah,
I think it's fantastic. I think it's
People love that
fantastic.
phone.
Yeah,
It's a
people
brilliant
love
phone.
that.
I've actually got a video coming out soon about the OnePlus 6 being a particularly really good used phone.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah, I
is.
think it's great.
It is. You forget that as quick as phones come out, it's a phone that's just 1 year old. It's a 1 year old phone, maybe a year and 3 months old.
Yeah, it's,
So
yeah, that's
yeah.
true. Yeah, that's true.
That's why.
845.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That you forget it's a year and it's the last one to have a headphone port. So it's a year phone, and that's why it's so good as used. It's not used as in 3 years ago or 2 years. It's just 1 year.
No,
So-
that's true.
It's a win. It's a big win. Yeah. So Pixel being in again. That's what's happening with
True,
the
but
new.
then you've got to compare it to the Pixel 3. Like, who the hell's going to buy a Pixel 3 now when you can buy a OnePlus 6 or an S9 Plus
the Pixel
at
3
the same era?
in terms of performance is really bad. Like it's,
Unless you want the camera.
yeah.
True, but the S9
And
Plus
it-
had a brilliant camera, and
I
that's
think
the
the
same
S9
era.
Plus is a really fantastic. I don't think it's anywhere near even. It can't hold a candle to the Pixel 3 though.
No, for final image output, but the overall experience on the Pixel 3 is long term wise hasn't been good.
No, because they made the bloody short-sighted idea to follow Apple and put no RAM in it,
And
then not have the software to back it up.
And at the end of the day, if you end up having a frustrating phone that struggles to take pictures quickly when you need it and has the versatility that you need, in the end of the day, I just see it as it's a dud product for its price, right? Whereas
especially when the 3A is out there, like, holy
see?
moly, that's such
Christ,
a
the 3A is
good
such a
phone.
good phone, yeah.
And it's a different expectation with the 3A. So you
Yeah.
know, I
And it's
wouldn't,
quicker.
yeah, I wouldn't recommend a Pixel 3. Like in the end, I don't think just the final images looking so good is enough for you to not be frustrated when you're using the phone every day for other things that you use more.
100%.
Yeah, so I hated the Mate 20 camera. I found it really soft, not gonna lie. I think the Mate 20 camera was good. I think the Mate
Who
20
I
said
love
that?
the Mate 20 Pro camera.
Tech Focus, Alex. I think the Mate 20 camera was sick.
Well, you can send it back then.
Has he still got it?
Yeah, still got it.
But yeah, you were
Cheeky.
talking about the pixel binning. I mean, we talked about it with Samsung's new ISOCELL sensors that are 108 megapixels, 64 megapixels. You know, they pixel bin and pixel merge down to 27 and 16 megapixels. But the benefit is that they have much bigger sensor sizes. The sensor sizes are getting closer to that 1-inch camcorder RX100 size, which is the biggest benefit. But why I don't mind these cameras doing what they're doing is that it kind of helps with marketing to flex that you have a very versatile camera that can do high resolution and also your standard resolution where you don't need to think about it. But then at the same time, I feel like the next flagship phones should just have sensors with that same size that come actually as true 27 megapixel images, you know, or 60 megapixel images with the new sensor sizes. So we'll see what the S11 and the new phones coming out will do in that sense. I'm trying to run through all these comments. OnePlus listens where other brands try to curb certain issues. Yeah, that's true. OnePlus generally do. Huawei camera seems to ride off the back of the night mode and other trickery. The images can be hit and miss, especially with AI turned on. The AI thing, I think is true. The AI one. And I mean, they're more stronger for photography. For video now, well, with the Mate 30 series, they've really shown like they're really strong for video. Minus, I think they need to work on the dynamic range a little bit from what I remember. But yeah,
I found the video to be quite poor on the Mate 30 Pro.
Yeah, the dynamic
And the
range was
testing.
why I found a problem because the 7T, they've really worked on the dynamic range overall and it's much, much better. Like, I mean, punching is better than the Mate 30 when I've seen every camera comparison.
Can't really, I haven't really used the Mate 30 as much as I would have liked, to be fair. So.
It's their own fault. The Google services thing is really hurting them.
Well,
It's
yeah,
an
but it's not
fault.
their fault, is it, sir?
No, it's not their fault, but I mean, like, it's just an unfortunate situation of, like, it's frustrating to be in that position to use a phone. It's great to see stuff included in your new phones that we gave feedback at the OpenAS forum. Again, OnePlus does listen, fact. Yeah, I found that they were hit and miss. Yep, we talked about that. I hate the fact that the Pixel 4 will be 1,000. Last year, I said I hate the Pixel 3Xs. You're going to hate it even more. That's going to be the last topic. And I found 64 gigabytes enough for my use. But 64 gigabyte in this day and age, Glenn, you're right. At that price point, nope. Pixel's purely riding on the camera that they've gotten away with comfortable for that. I disagree with that. I think there's a lot of Pixel talk now, so we'll skip. So I'm going to switch to desktop. So if you guys haven't seen it, this is the next topic. So the next topic is about Essential. Wow, okay. We'll mainly talk about the phone, but obviously we can't hide away from the fact that Andy Rubin and stuff surrounding him. So we'll discuss how that will be received media-wise, you know. But I don't know if you guys, if you have it in front of you, if you go on Essential's Twitter page, you will see Project Gem or GEM. So Project Gem, we don't know if this is actually a different product line or this is the Essential Phone 2 effectively, right? We still don't know. But when I first saw this, it did not make sense to me until at the OnePlus event, I held the Galaxy Fold. So M-Kwan came from, he's one of the guys that came from Dubai, UAE, and he had a Galaxy Fold. Okay. And when I held it closed, it made me understand the form factor more of what I'm seeing from Essential. Now, I haven't had a chance to look at Sony's new Xperia series because they're based on that candy bar 21:9 aspect ratio. I think, Ryan, you have? You've
I'll
had
play
a
with the
chance to play
Xperia
with
5.
Yeah, the 5 has the same form factor. And I found it interesting, and I've always wanted to hold it to see how it feels like. But holding the Galaxy Fold closed is 21:9 in terms of aspect ratio, proportion, and also
It looks in the photo that Essential's got on their Twitter, that looks far more like 32:9. Doesn't look anything like 21:9.
Potentially.
Because if you look at it, if you imagine it sideways and you imagine two 16:9 monitors, looks far closer to that. Like, I've been sat in front of a 21:9 monitor for the best part of 2 years, and it's not as wide as you think it is, like compared to this phone.
But this is what makes the discussion interesting now, and really just to get you guys' viewpoints on the form factor and where they're going with it, right? And
I think it reminds me of the it looks like something Apple would have created, to be quite honest with you. Sorry, I'm choking. It would look like something that Apple would have done for an Apple remote. But apparently there's no Google Play services on it, so
yeah, so it makes me feel like,
especially after this,
I feel like,
well, yeah, true.
I feel like this is not the Essential Phone 2, personally. I might be wrong. I don't think this is the Essential Phone 2. I think this is them creating a new product line to really make us think differently about how phones should look like now. Just like how the foldable form factors are coming in, right? This is Essential trying to do their thing of what they think smartphones should also be handled like in day-to-day, right? I don't think this is the Essential Phone 2. I think the Essential Phone 2 might potentially be a phone that they will still do, right? But I don't think this is the Essential Phone 2. What do you guys think?
My interpretation of Essential is that why do they deserve any sort of, like, their first phone flopped. They have good software updates, and they have less than probably 0.00001% market share.
Yeah.
Why should we even care about this product? To be quite honest with you,
if we could just quickly recap to the Essential phone, because I got a decent amount of time with that as my daily device.
Oh, nice.
And
yeah.
that was a bit of a train wreck, to be honest.
I
mean, it was cool, and everyone who saw it at the time was like, "Wow, that's different." But I mean, less than 6 months later, every phone looks like it, so you can't lean on the design anymore. The software was horrible. It was very poorly put together, and I had so many crash restarts.
Really?
It was just the camera app was the worst.
I heard about
that. And the camera itself was it was awful.
The camera
itself
really was bad.
So the camera was bad. The screen was IPS. It was quite bright. It's quite a bright IPS, but comparing it to the Samsung AMOLED at the time, there's no competition. The Samsung just beats it. The performance was good when it worked, which was about 10% of the time. The software looked clean. That's what deceived you see, because it kind of felt a bit like a Pixel in how clean it was, but it was just broken. The battery life was awful. I don't believe it had wireless charging because it had that ceramic back. It had two little pins. You could connect your 360-degree camera to it because you want one of those for some reason. So, but the thing that made it great, like 6 months down the line, is that it was sold at a low price. But now, if we look at that same price point, we've got the Pixel 3a, and I know exactly which one I'm going to pick out of those two. So, I think,
one of them is going to exist as a phone in future. I don't care about the Essential phone. Don't care about Project Gem. I don't care about this at all. Couldn't care less.
Nah, I don't think
it deserves any airtime, to be honest.
No,
I think it's just like when you've got, like when you think about the company and you think about Rubin, and then you think about all the phones that are out right now, there's just no room in the market for it, and I don't think we should even allow room in the market for it. I think that would just go against like a lot of people's principles. So
I think I can let's separating it from the all of the baggage that comes with it.
Yeah,
it looks okay. It's interesting. It's not come with GMS. Okay, radically different form factors have been done before. This is another radical form factor, but don't get me wrong, I'd rather see a foldable than this. What does this have over a foldable phone that... I'm sorry, Ben, for being negative. So negative.
No. Yeah. It's not about being negative. I started off negative because I shut it down effectively saying that I don't see this as the Essential Phone 2. right? So I started off from a place of all I basically said, I don't think this is the essential phone to you. I think
No,
it's
no, I agree with you there. I
them
agree with you
trying
there.
to pitch their idea of how a smartphone should also be handled or looked, right? I didn't understand it, right? I understood it a bit more when I held the Galaxy Fold closed. I haven't had the chance to use the Xperia series, but I don't see really what they're trying to do and how they're really going to communicate it. Because I think another problem with the Essential phone, which is good that Ryan, you've actually used it, is I feel like before it even came out, I think that product was completely communicated wrong. And we said this last time that I said this to you with this is what LG has been having for a long time. They've communicated their mobile products wrong, where people, even though they can be next to a product that they are superior, the other products will look better than them because they've just not communicated their product and what it's meant to be properly, ultimately, right? And it doesn't help more when the initial pricing is completely wrong. That doesn't help the communication either, you see. So I don't disagree. I think the usability and usefulness of this Project Gem, it's not something that I'm necessarily excited about per se, and that's also to say, like, someone like Andy Rubin, where you've literally gone ghost for like 9 months, and then boom, with this, people don't necessarily forget easy, right?
No.
So, and it's not even for all the stuff that he's done, but like what you've said, Ryan, like people don't forget easy that your first phone was not a finished product by any means. Like not even close.
Compare that to the OnePlus One.
Yeah.
I mean that's an icon of a phone at this point.
There you go. And that's the difference. Like if you're coming out and like what you're saying, not just the fact that the camera output for images and video was rubbish, but actually using it was rubbish. Yes, it looked clean, but it was actually just not a usable phone, where, it will make you question, like, why am I spending that money? Find the materials, whether it's ceramic, titanium frame, no branding, clean packaging, fast charging out the box, fine. But at the end of the day...
Well, that was in an era when the Pixel existed, so the Pixel had just hit the market. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, you're not wrong, but it's just my point.
That was the Essential Phone 1 was 835.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my point is, you if you don't communicate your product right, especially when you're coming out, right, that's where you lose instantly, So I don't disagree. I think this one's a quick one. Project Gem is pretty much a no-go, especially with exciting foldable products, coming out, really doing something more exciting. They need to, unless they communicate the product better, I think it is dead on arrival. I
don't think it is even going to arrive, and I hope it doesn't. Quite honest with you,
Yeah.
It feels like a Kickstarter for a failed product that's never going to make it to market. Does this guy deserve any airtime? Does Essential deserve any airtime? As far as I'm concerned, no. To be honest, I think we should be lauding people who are actually pushing the boundaries of real tech. This isn't real tech, as far as I'm concerned. It looks. The colours are quite nice. He's done a design.
Just to bring us back to ground level, I believe it was last week or week before that, you looked at the rumors of the X2 Pro, the Realme one.
Yeah.
And you look at Xiaomi, you look at the Pocophone, you look at the what's it called, the newest one that the K20 Pro.
Yeah, K20
you look at tech like that, and people hate on the software, and they can. And to be honest, I have in the past, so I can't say anything. But if you look at just how functional that is, and look at just how much tech they're cramming in for that price, and we're talking pre-OnePlus. Like OnePlus is kind of like the premium flagship killer. If I think about it like that these days. But if you look at that and you compare it to the Gem, which is just like, let's be honest, it's just a joke, right?
No.
The Essential phone is a joke. It could be, you might be interested in it, you might really be excited about it. It doesn't, unless it's got, it probably hasn't got that stupid charging that the Realme is meant to have, or the Mi's level of camera versatility, or anything like that. It's probably just one of those proof of concept things. And the fact that you've got all that tech in those other phones, how I don't know. Here's my question: how can they both be in the same era of technology? And you've got that rubbish, and you've got this, and you've got the OnePlus 7T that could be included in it, with just how useful it is, versus something that, I mean, it just looks like a toy.
Yeah.
It's like a TV remote, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No,
Do you want to carry around a TV remote? Like, how usable is it going to be in 12 months' time? If it comes out as a product, how's it going to come out as a product and be usable? Are they going to support the software at the same levels? Is this literally just a way of them reintroducing themselves on the market, so that this seems to me like a really like, I can't even think of the way to describe it. It seems like a cynical way of the company trying to reinvent themselves as an innovator, when they tried to innovate with the notch on the first phone, and this is another way. Oh, we're just going to do it with a different form factor, and it gives them column inches and takes away from the fact that the company's tarnished as a result of the owner. It feels very much like that. But yeah, there's I'd rather see phones get lauded that are actually doing things at like the price point, like Ryan says, like the K20 Pro.
Well, like the Pixel, I think that had a really good lot of press because it was doing something that at the time no one else was really doing.
So the first Pixel, the Pixel 3a.
The Pixel 3a, yeah.
Yeah, no, the Pixel 3a. No, definitely. I definitely agree. I don't think there was many comments about the Project Gem that they were doing. I think a lot of people are talking about the Pixel. So I've opened. We'll jump over to, because then that will give space for us to wrap this up quickly, and because I've got a lot of opinions on this one. Then we could do and then we can do a Q&A at the end. But yeah, 9 to 5 Google, and it states, I'll switch to the desktop so you guys can see it as well. So it says Google Pixel 4 XL pricing may start at $999, Nest Mini at $49 according to Best Buy. So this is the base model. So that's the base model, 6 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage. Now I'm gonna oh, that Damien's thumbnail, he went all out with it. So love the latest video. 2 days time.
That isn't the latest video, actually.
No, it's not. It's the one for the Google announcement. Now, we'll know this in 2 days, right? I'm gonna quickly just scan over. So face unlock with let me go back to. So let me switch back to us. So face unlock with no fingerprint scanner, obviously more secure because there's more, metrics in there to be a version of Face ID like what Apple are doing, right? 2,800 milliamp hour battery, 3,700 respectively, if I'm correct. There isn't going to be anything mind-blowing for fast charging per se, but there will be wireless charging. We don't know if it's going to be fast wireless charging. There isn't going to be an ultra-wide angle camera unless they surprise us, but I think at that price point, at this time, not having an ultra-wide camera almost kind of makes it a write-off if they're just focusing on standard wide as well as zoom, personally. It's great that they do have a 90 hertz display apparently coming, both in QHD plus as well as FHD plus. So I think that's really good. 90 hertz all the things or higher. What else? I mean, IP rating, I guess. And finally, 6 gig RAM, more than 4 gig. But the fact that there isn't a 256 gig model in this price range, it doesn't really make sense to me. This is the first Pixel device out of all 4 of them that have come out, right, that I'm excited for. But I think unless they're going to have it in more places where you can buy it, in terms of, network and carrier, I personally think, for me, the Pixel 4 is kind of dead on arrival with how OnePlus have played their cards, right? I don't think it's worth, in this climate right now, to the point where even Apple, adapted to having to put, a triple camera system and a ridiculously big battery in their phones, right? Especially in the Pro Max, that at that price point, the batteries are the size that they're coming in at. There isn't an 8 gig RAM because I honestly think for a flagship Android phone, 6 gig is the minimum recommended. 8 gig is actually the recommended, and 12 gig is the future compatibility or future proofing. It's the same idea that OnePlus had back in the day with the OnePlus 3, where everyone was like, oh my God, 60 gram is overkill. You don't need it. Those OnePlus 3 and 3T customers, they're laughing now because their phones are still running considerably better compared to phones that back then had 4 and 3 gigabytes of RAM, if you remember respectively. So it's not insane to have 12 gig now if you want your phone to last a lot longer, guaranteed. You know, I just think, for me personally, based on the 7T series devices across the board and what they're representing, from a really, really premium special edition McLaren to your popular ultra premium smartphone, the Pro, to literally the price performance king for a brand new Android phone that was first to have Android 10 at that price point of 549, which is really, what is it doing? It's £50 more than the retail price of a Pixel 3a XL. Have you seen that? So the fact that it's pushing the 7T, I wanted to save it for that to make you lot realize the 7T has pushed its price so close to the Pixel 3a XL, that it makes it such more of a value buy that you can't really then say that it's the software is why you're going for Pixel 4 series. That's my opinion. I think personally it doesn't sit well.
I think while the software is almost as good on the OnePlus, there are certain little things that I can understand why people choose the Pixel over the OnePlus, because there's certain tiny little things that you don't necessarily get.
No, true. They'll hold certain things like this whole call screening and mainline that's coming, other stuff as well.
There's other little tiny things that people buy devices for, and I think that's kind of why the Pixel is its own version of Android in a lot of senses, because there's things like the one thing that I really miss on every single phone that I have is when I don't use a Pixel is the song identification on a lock screen, and that seems really weird, but the lock screen, the way the lock screen's organized on a Pixel phone is really, really good, especially in Android 10. So you have all of your notifications in the center of the AMOLED display, and it will kind of it'll ping when they do it. The haptics are really good. The software is probably as clean as it gets in a lot of regards, because it has to be. There's tiny little tweaks here and there that you don't necessarily see on other phones. While I will say that I do prefer the OnePlus launcher, I prefer the OnePlus dark theme in the theme application. Just there's little things here and there, like you do have arguably the most consistently good camera on any phone you can buy, because 9 out of 10 times, if I take the Pixel with me, I know it's just going to do a fantastic job. As good as the iPhone is for consistency stakes, it doesn't work in every scenario as well as the Pixel does.
I got to talk about this. I got to talk about it.
Add it.
I've just been sat here, just like
no. I was waiting for you to come in.
The Pixel line is really confusing to me. Like, I'm in that camp of people. I think that they should just scrap it, and I think that they should go with the Pixel 3a. I think they should take that approach to smartphones, kind of similar to the old Nexus devices. But that's neither here nor there. The Pixel 3 for me was a flop. I'm not sure if it was for everyone else, but
I think it was for me personally.
Sales wise, yeah, definitely. I think
I don't even think so. I'm not even looking at so. I just think the phone out of the box to me, just wasn't that. I'm not even looking at sales. Forget sales. I'm just think the phone itself as it stood just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
I respected the camera, but it just didn't do it for me as a complete phone.
But I think the camera thing is really subjective. I'll talk about that in a second. I think the camera thing's really subjective because I don't like Pixel shots. I like Huawei shots, and not because I'm a Huawei fanboy or anything.
But it's just what you prefer. It's what you've seen.
But yeah, it's just you could objectively say that the iPhone has a completely different style altogether, and Samsung has different. Samsung uses a lot of sharpness. Huawei pushes the colors. That's kind of subjective. And but yeah, coming back to the thing you said at the beginning, I believe about the ultra wide, it not having an ultra wide and it being a write off. Yeah, Google has absolutely no reason to not include.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
Apparently, it's not I've heard rumors that they might do it via software because they can create an ultra wide shot using software, which is seems ridiculous. You don't get an official wide angle. It's not wide angle, is it?
You have to for that to work, fit on a physical level. you would have
You'd have
to
to have
use,
a fish
you'd
up.
have to shift
Shifts. There has to
Yeah.
be some
the
shifting,
phone
and
around.
that's
Which
just
imagine switching to the wide angle mode and go, oh yeah, I just need to get this photo. Let me just make sure everything in the frame is still. That's just not going to work.
for me. I pray. This is what I mean about. I respect and I praise their computational photography and end results. Right, that's not the issue, even on a subjective to an objective level. But not having a good quality, and this is where, like, if you look at, let's just say, how the iPhone transitions between each camera lens, it's the best at it. It looks so seamless that you don't notice that you've gone from
It is
ultra wide
seamless.
to it's.
Although, can I just interject with the wide angles on the iPhone? It lens flares like a bastard.
Yeah,
It's
there's more
It's
distortion as well.
horrendous.
There's more distortion as well. I don't know. I don't believe like the Android phones they have a wide angle distortion correction in there, because obviously with the Android phones you can
I
select
believe
it.
that the Mate 30 Pro does.
Yeah, so does the 7T series. Like
Yeah.
they have it, and the Samsung phones have it. You go in there and you can untick it to have that fisheye look more, or tick it to have the distortion corrected. It's almost like how Lightroom would do that for lens profiles when you're doing editing in there, right? I just think at that price point, right? Pixel 4 XL base model, 60 gram, 64 gigabytes of storage. There isn't a 256 option. You're probably going to pay an extra 150 for the 128. Compare that to something like a OnePlus 7 Pro, not the McLaren, just the OnePlus 7 Pro, 699, right? $1,000. Is it worth that extra £300 difference? No, potentially,
Just
because
potentially get a good camera, yeah.
you know, but like for me, is it worth it? Is it what I'm gonna say? What I think in the sense that £300 more, because that they're using minimum spec hardware for me based on how Android requirements have gone up slightly. I don't think they've done a good enough. Oh, bloody fly! I don't think they've done a good enough job for the product to last a year and 2 years solid. I think so. I think if 3 years ago 6 gig RAM was really coming into its own, and 3 years have gone now, and system resources have gone up, even though the systems even though the operating systems are efficient, requirements have gone up. It happens. Requirements always go up, even though things are getting more efficient and more feature rich. I think not having an 8 gig RAM model, right? I think that Pixel phone in a year will crash and burn, and it will not be a good phone for that price. So I don't think as much as it's the most exciting Pixel phone to me on a flagship level coming out, I think it's almost a struggle for me to understand where they're going with this phone at this price point. So I don't know what you guys think, but that's my opinion on the Pixel 4.
I think
If you look at the original Pixel, look at what the original Pixel did. It took photos like no other phone.
Yeah.
It charged faster than no other phone. It was the flagship for not a very long time, mind you. The flagship of what Google could do. It was the flagship Android smartphone. If you wanted a flagship Android and iPhone, you would compare the iPhone to a Pixel. Now, I feel like you can't even compare a OnePlus to a Pixel. The OnePlus is a step above the Pixel, and it has been for the past 2 years, in my opinion. Not necessarily just because of the camera or anything, but like leaning into the camera is great.
Yeah,
but not when the rest of the phone is that bad.
Here's my theory on this entire process. So, when the Pixel was conceived as a line of devices, the Nexus phones, we've all used Nexus phones.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Nexus phones.
Same.
While the Nexus 6P was fatally flawed, it was still one of my favorite phones
Oh,
ever.
yeah. 6Ps.
Fantastic.
Huh.
Fantastic. Legend in terms of tech.
Legend.
But my personal opinion is that when Google created the Pixel line, they knew that they shoehorned themselves into the conversation when it came to cameras. So what for years nobody could touch the iPhone for consistency and public perception. They came in with the idea with the Pixel line of making the Nexus with the best camera on the market. They came in with HTC's hardware, which was HTC's hardware was very well perceived on the Android side of the fence, rightly so. They just said, well, we'll take their engineers, we'll just use their hardware as the base. Was it the U10? They used the U10
Yeah,
body for the
it was a
the
U10.
U device, didn't it? U device
It was either
body
HTC
for
10
the
or U11.
Yeah, one of
yes.
those.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
So they
no,
took
it was the HTC 10 for sure.
yeah,
HTC 10.
HTC 10. Yeah,
Good.
you're right. Yeah,
So they took
2016.
the shell of it. They took that, put the unbelievable software that they had built over years of just Google Images and the parsing that they use and the computational aspects of it to make the best camera on any smartphone at that point in time. What that then meant is that they leapfrogged everyone else from a non-existent Nexus line that was just not had no public mindset. Nobody even knew what it was. I remember having them, and I'm sure yourselves, if you've had them, what phone is that? It's the Google phone. What Google make phones? Every single time you'd get someone asking about a device, what's got the best camera, and they wouldn't even let you answer. It would be, is it the iPhone? Now, what Google have done is they've put themselves ahead of everyone else, or they did when the Pixel first came out. They shoehorn themselves into the conversation so that when you talk about Android cameras, you have to talk about Pixel.
No,
whether you agree,
it's true.
whether you agree with the hardware aspects, if there's a lot of shortcomings in the hardware. If you talk about Android cameras, the Pixel has to be mentioned, whether you like it or not. And I think that was the best thing they did at the time. Now all they're focusing on is slow increments to the hardware. So I think they're playing the long. You would argue that they're going to play the long game. The thing is that with the Pixel 3a, they've done something that not many other phones can do at that price point. They've made a camera system with hardware that's you can be much more forgiving on. Obviously, there's a few issues with the Pixel 3a. Most of them can be overlooked. So, like the post-processing of images takes a little while. I'm not bothered about that because the pictures are fantastic for 350 quid. I think it is for the 3A standard. The battery's really, really good. The overall package is comparable with the Pixel 3. It's weird. I don't know what Google are trying to do with the 3A line. I feel like it feels like a saving grace type play. With the 4A, you know for a fact if they can do anything they're currently doing on the Pixel 4, what could come to market, and then they would do the Pixel 4a. If they can cram even a third of that in 4a, the compelling 2020 for Google. Maybe not on the entire market because there's a lot more competition in the rest of the world. But I feel like Google are literally only focused in the US. I feel like for them, they need to capture the US market.
Yeah. No, you see,
That's my interpretation anyway.
You're not wrong there, but then if what you started with was they used the base hardware and structure of the Nexus line, the Nexus lines never performed bad when it comes to the overall phone experience. Why is it that we've gotten into this major price point increase and we can't also agree on having that camera and also have an overall phone that will last well for a year or more, when the current ones that have come out have struggled at that flagship price point?
I would love to be able to answer your question, Ben, but
No, I know this is.
I know why Google have done it. They should be slapping 8 gig of RAM in it.
That's it.
12.
That's all. That's it. It's not even for you to answer. It's more that they need to look at themselves of those pain points. People will pick up on it more than a camera at the end that isn't the blistering best. Ultimately, do you get it?
Yeah. No.
I just feel like that the impression that leaves. That impression will be much, much worse on someone because, like what you're saying, the subjectiveness of how the screen tap that they're using represents that image that they're taking as well can make them feel like it's a good image or not, you know? So comparing that, I'm thinking Google deserves to be part of that conversation of the final pictures, how well they look for them to be classed as that good, right? But then it's like they've just dropped the ball on nowadays when you're in this arena of price. That also needs to be done well, you see. So it's been done better this time, but I just feel like it won't do well after a year. Whereas the Pixel 3, it didn't do well after 6 months. Do you get it? Like a decent amount of people where 6 months is like the usability, the crashes, the slowdowns, the poor RAM management, it picked up quickly. In 6 months. I think that will be longer. It maybe take a year until people start seeing that, right? But that's where I feel like now, especially with how OnePlus have played their cards with the 7T series across the board, there's going to be a big question on why the Pixel 4 and the 4 XL are coming in at that price point, even though these are the Pixels that I've been most excited for compared to any of the others, you know. So yeah, man, that's kind of my take. We'll know in 2 days. So I don't know if you guys have anything more to share on that. But yeah,
I think that if you're going to put yourself in the like, if you're the Pixel, and obviously the Pixel is meant to be the best camera, and you don't have an ultra wide, that's
Yeah.
a joke.
to me, I 100% agree. I think
Because
they
like
missed
even
the
the
ball on
even
that.
the Mi A3 has an ultra wide, and it's even like a decent one as well.
They could have
Mi A3
done
costs 190
they could have
pounds.
done what you know, Apple did with the iPhone 11, not the Pro, and they could have worked on their super res zoom. I think whatever they were doing with their super res
That was
zoom,
a big thing last year, wasn't
you
it?
know,
With the
it's you know, and that would have been like, we don't need a telephoto because we've now got the second generation of the super res zoom to give you crystal clear zoom at up to ×3 or whatever. Cool, you know. Not having an ultra wide there, you know, again, credit to LG way back, Motorola as well. Now the quality of the ultra wide cameras that are coming either at 117 degrees like what you find in the 70 series, 120 degrees like you find in the iPhone series, 123 degrees like you find in the Samsung S and the Note series, or 125 degrees like what you find in the Asus Zenfone 6 and ROG Phone 2 series. The quality of ultra wide angle lenses has really improved. It's something that needs to be there in the flagship. It's a nice perspective to have, and it's something that I don't think you can really use computational photography to really trick into doing it, unless you have to tell the user that they need to move, which is then panorama then in its own little way, you know. So yeah, that's where I sit with the Pixel 4 XL and the 4. The price, I think even without,
Do you think you'll pick one up? I feel like if you wait a few months, like every Pixel phone so far, they'll do a good deal on it and you get it cheap, I think.
yeah, I guess so. But you know, it's like with iPhones and with OnePluses, you never have to wait 6 months, or you never have to wait a few months. You just feel like I can buy it straight away, and I know you can justify it straight away. And if we always keep thinking about Pixel devices in that mindset, that's not good for them. It's not going to be good for them. You can't, if someone sees it and says good, but I'll just wait a few months and I'll pick one up. That's not a good place. You want people to be like, wow,
queuing up to buy it.
Yeah. What can I do to make this money work for me to buy it? Because that's how more people feel about the OnePlus, the iPhones, and even to some extent Samsung, even though they still do discounts further down the line, you know. They're falling into that trap of how people perceive LG, where it's like, mate, just never buy an LG straight away. Wait half a year, cop one, because it will tank in price.
Well, I think that's probably what's killed LG, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what's not going to help them. If they can't make people emotionally just look at it and think, I want to buy it straight away, I think that's still going to be their biggest problem, 4th generation round with the 4 series, you know? So I don't know what you guys think on it, but that's my mindset of, that's what I'm trying to get at, that they're not convincing people to be able to buy their phones straight away, no questions asked. Yeah.
It has me excited for the 4A though.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Which is not good. That's not good, is it? It's
that's
not good.
That's not good for their flagship side. It's not. It really isn't. And like I said, like, people missed it, but the 7T is so closely priced to the MSRP of the 3A XL. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you're looking at it that, this is why I've said in the past that if you're going to get any of the 3A phones, just get the normal 3A, not the XL, because in my mind, I'll be like, I'll rather spend the extra £50 and get a 7T.
Yeah.
Is he? So Google need to look at themselves and see, and that pretty much kind of wraps up all 3 topics. So unless you guys have anything to add, we'll go through the comments quickly and then just ask a little Q&A and see if anything else is on people's mind. Where am I even reading
I
from?
got one more thing to add about the
add.
And it's something that we haven't talked about, I don't think, anyway. And it's something that I really like. I just really like the design of the 4. I'm not going to pick one up. I don't think it's really worth picking up, but I really like the design of the 4. If it's got that consistent left, right, and bottom bezel, which it looks like it has in the Leaf,
I think the design I think this is what I mean about. I think the design and what the phone is bringing has me more excited compared to any of the other Pixels, right? But I'm just more. I'm still even more concerned than before because everyone else has just stepped up their game. Everyone else has stepped up their game even more. So it makes me still even more concerned. So I think the design is way better than the bathtub notch of the 3XL. It's consistent. It makes sense. Yeah. It's functional. It's a flat screen, which I'm a big win for. I'm sorry, flat screen, all the things if I can. So I'm big on that, and I still feel like there is a place for that 5.8 inch screen size phone. I still think there is a place for that. So I give them that.
If it's going to be one of those small form factors, it's going to be brilliant, I think.
Yeah. There's a place for it.
We don't see enough of those.
Well, we don't. That's why the normal iPhone 11, especially that 5.8 inch, the iPhone 11 Pro, 5.8 inch. I think there's a place for it, and I think it's for all the hard time I've given Apple on why the name Pro doesn't make. I still think there's a place for that size phone. So I'll give them that. The design, the form factor makes more sense now than them just last year, just especially with the 3XL, they just felt like they were trying to follow a trend while still trying to keep the functionality of their front-facing speakers, which great, but actually didn't help the overall look of the phone because it just looked like a half-baked looking product at that price point, So it's better now. They've made more sense of it because of all the sensors in there for the facial unlock, which I'm calling it. I think their face unlock will knock Apple's one out of the park. I think it will. I think it'll be better.
I'm not a fan of getting rid of a fingerprint scanner.
No, I'm not a fan. I'm definitely not a fan. I'm definitely not. That's why I called that out first. Remember, as in no fingerprint scanner, just purely facial unlock.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of that at that price point. I'm not. But I'm just saying that I think it will be better than Apple's one. I think it'll work at great angles. I think it'll work in all orientations, just like it does on their iPad Pro. This is another thing that I critique them for, that your iPad Pro's facial unlock is the best one. All orientations, all angles, what more could you want? You didn't do that for your Pro series. I think Google are going to do that. I don't care for the gestures because I think it's just like air gestures with the Note 10 series gimmick. Personally, I think it will work really well, but I think it will be a gimmick enough where not enough people will instinctively remember to use it, right? It's about just naturally remembering to use it. I think not enough people will remember to use it instinctively, even though it will work really well because the sensors are going to be way more advanced than what you find on Apple series because of the solid technology, right? Mm-hmm. But that's the only thing I can really say that they will do better than Apple.
If they integrate Solly into more products, which is, all I'm saying is that's what I've been hearing. That's just on the record now, isn't it? But the thing is to adopt that more.
Oh dear.
Then
the audio's gone pants.
Way more cohesion. So I've gone off. My voice gone off. Hello, Ben.
Yo, can you hear me?
A bit crackly, but I can hear you.
Yeah, the audio's just gone weird.
Yeah, it's gone a little bit. Pretty sure it's fine on the stream. I feel like.
Yeah, I think I've lost. Okay. I don't know what went pants there. So let me switch it back.
I think it's working absolutely fine now.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it just had a moment of just having a meh.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's wait two more days and And
I think the thing is, the exciting aspect of the launch is not necessarily the Pixel 4. There's a lot of other products that they're going to launch that are interesting. I think that nobody does a smart home as well as Google, as far as I'm concerned.
IoT
And there's
stuff.
going to be a new Google Home Mini, which is Nest Mini. There's going to be a Google Wi-Fi mesh system with a built-in assistant. There's going to be a lot of other products that really do tie together really well, because I don't think there's anyone else who ties all of their products together quite as well as Google in terms of usefulness. Like I know a lot of people will go the Apple ecosystem, but I don't.
We need to live stream or a video about that.
Google's talking to me, lads.
Oh.
We need to a live stream or a video about the ecosystem.
Definitely. I think actually even doing like a proper video on it as well will be good.
Yeah.
No, 2 more days we'll find out about the Pixel 4 series and where they really land, and the actual price point, and also the starting price of the normal Pixel 4 with 6 gig RAM and 64 gig will also be interesting. I'm calling it to be priced at 800. I think it'll be priced at 800 starting for the normal Pixel 4. And the Pixel 4 XL I think will be 1,000, 100% starting at 1,000. Crossboard.
100%.
Yeah, that's what I'm calling. So, let's do a quick Q&A. So I'll ask you guys both your favorite phones of 2019 so far. Go.
So so far?
Yeah, so far.
I think it's between the 7T and the Pixel 3a XL.
Yeah, good shot. For me, definitely the 7T. Like, do I wish it was... I know it sounds weird to say this. I wish this had a pop-up camera, not because I like pop-up cameras, but I don't use the selfie camera enough compared to having a full screen, where I just wish this was a flat screen as it is, right, with a pop-up camera so it can be all screen. That's the only thing I wish this had. But the 7Ts, because of the price, I lead with that first. Because of the price, this is my favorite phone of the year. And I've said it, this is the first year I'm not upgrading to an iPhone because I don't think they did enough to call it Pro. Everything that they did with their iPad Pro line was so great that I was expecting it to trickle more down into the iPhone 11 Pro line. They didn't do it. And I think that's something that is not even going to come next year. I think that's something that's going to come in 2021. So I just didn't feel the need to upgrade. Although the iPhone 11 Pro Max does have the best battery life in a smartphone right now. I've not seen one battery comparison that is lost. It's that battery life on the 11 Pro Max specifically. All of them, but the 11 Pro Max specifically is amazing. But my favorite phone is definitely the 7T. For how much love I've had for the 7 Pro and whatnot, the 7T, wow. Like, I can't stop using it. I look at it and I'm excited to just open something, So yeah, Ryan.
Everyone saw this coming. Mate 30 Pro.
Cool. Any reasons on a Mate 30 Pro?
It's my favorite design of any smartphone. Favorite camera system of any smartphone. Battery life's incredible.
Sure.
Google services is obviously a big problem. Let me say, it's my favorite phone as long as it's got the Google services.
Cool.
I love the Mate 20 Pro. That was my favorite phone of all time. Mate 30 Pro just continues to be, for me, it just continues on that trend of being great. So
no, but those are good enough reasons. Anyone else have questions to ask in the comments? We've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and we're gonna fly out because we've done an extended one due to technical issues and
just to comment on what Roger's put in.
Yeah, please pick any comments to.
So Roger says he hasn't seen any Pixel or OnePlus device in the flesh, and he's interested in the Pixel 4. To be honest, I think that's really, really odd that you've not seen one. You mean you've never seen one, like used one in person, or you've literally never seen one on the streets? Do you mean in public or?
That's a good point. There is a big difference between those two.
Because I've seen a lot of OnePlus devices. And I've only probably ever seen about 6 Pixel devices in Leeds, where I live, quite a reasonably big city. In London, seen a few more, but they're very, very niche. And I think when people see a Pixel or when people, if you have a OnePlus and you see someone with a OnePlus, it feels like a little gang that you're in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dave's saying 7 Pros is number one P30. That's a good point. I forgot about the P30. The P30 is definitely my third best smartphone of the year. I don't want to say the Mate 30 Pro just for reasons that it's not really available.
I want to try.
Legitimately.
I want to try the P30. I have reservations about it.
Yeah, I can get you one, mate. I can get you one, mate.
That sounds so dodgy.
No, do you know what?
I'll get you one, mate. Yeah, I know a guy. He knows a guy. Right, he drives a truck. I think we can get one off him. He won't notice. He won't notice nothing, mate.
It sounds like a scene.
No questions asked. All right.
It sounds like a scene out of a thingy Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah, it does.
I have my reservations because I'm a bit of a display snob. Live streams. I'm a bit of a display knob, obviously. I just feel like the display tech was a step back in the P30 Pro, and it just wasn't. And the dual speakers taking a hit as well wasn't something I was kind of happy about. But as much as I've got reservations, I really want to try it because the camera for photography specifically, I know it's just ridiculous. And
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And battery, come on, that one, you know, Huawei's killing it there.
Roger's just confirmed he's only ever had the Pixel in his hand once. That's insane. It's insane that you have tech channeling. You've never had a OnePlus or Pixel.
Yeah. I'll probably the one out of the OnePlus devices that I have, probably the normal OnePlus 7 Pro 4G is the one that I'm not really using. So I can probably rotate that around and see. Yeah, but cool. That's interesting. Anyone else? 1 minute. Any other questions? Any other questions you guys have that you want to drop in?
What really quickly? How would you? Let's just say that all the things we know about the Pixel 4, or the things we think we know about the Pixel 4 come true. How would you compare that to Apple's lineup of phones this year?
Not good enough. Not those battery sizes. You're putting battery sizes like that in your phone in displays that are running 90 hertz, 2800, 3700. I'm sorry. You know, what Apple have done with their camera for the rear and the front and the battery technology in there, that alone at that price point, forgetting anything else that you put next to it, I'm sorry. You're not on Apple's level. And that that's another thing I keep saying about Google is that your products are making Apple look good. And that's not what you want to do. Your products are making Apple look like they're doing a better job than you. You know, compared to the other Android manufacturers make Apple look bad in their hardware. And Apple's only saving grace is literally their ecosystem of how they've integrated it into their watch, which is an ankle bracelet for your wrist. I always say it. You know, their iPad OS, which is now because it's iPad OS. Wow. Different level, and Mac OS, right? But from when you're allowing Apple to make their physical hardware, taking away OS out of the way, look better than your phone, it worries me. When I saw those two battery capacities with or without optimization, I was like 2800, mate. I can't remember the last time I saw the S10e has free. The S10e is at least 3100. And you're driving a 90 hertz display, even with dynamic refresh rate scaling, that's going to be, I think that one's going to be a disaster for battery.
I don't disagree. I think you're right. I think it's going to the battery will absolutely tank.
Mate, I'm
do terrible.
That's my opinion anyway. I don't know if you agree with that, Ryan, or what your thoughts are. But
no, I'm glad that you went with the battery angle.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the really obvious ultra-wide camera angle, or at least it's obvious to me.
Oh no, I went with that already. I'm just I wanted to bring a different perspective of.
Yeah, that's what I mean to lead with.
Yeah, how ashamed would it be to get a phone that you know that the battery is just rubbish all the time, you know? I don't think that would be a nice experience. And they will you'll feel the hit more of a 90 hertz display. You just will. You just really will. You know. So no, that's my thoughts.
I think like specifically with the Pixels the past 2 years, they've just been really disappointing. Again, if what we think we know is true, the original Pixel was really exciting, but it didn't necessarily look or feel as premium. The Pixel 2, I feel, went in on that. I think it improved on that massively.
Yeah.
The camera was better. The screen, meh. The design was
The
better.
QA.
But like, yeah, the POLED wasn't quite enough in that, I think. But I think those two were the kind of Google had found their footing. They found where they wanted to be on the market. The Pixel 3 was leaning in on that camera a little bit more, but like it still had decent, I suppose, specs at the time. It didn't quite have the right amount of RAM, and it didn't have micro SD expansion, didn't have that. But at the same time, it was kind of a more niche product. This time around, you've kind of like they're definitely behind now. They were a little bit behind before, but they're definitely behind now when you consider what the market's doing. These budget phones features, you see the kind of mid-range features, OnePlus doing a decent job with their apples, well, being very iterative, bad job this year. Thank Google, and like they're trying to make up the display, but for market in terms of all the camera, the batteries, just like I feel like they're trying to throw bits in that they can. They've probably got a hold of that 90 Hz display quite easily, and they've just like thrown it in there, but they haven't made up for it with, like you said, a larger storage configuration. Because at this amount of money, people like to buy 256 gig phones. That's not abnormal when you spend £1,000 on a phone. People aren't spending £1,000 on a phone and picking the 32 or 64 gig option. If they can spend another £50 to £100 and get more storage, they're going to do that, especially if it doesn't have micro SD expansion, like the Pixel, well, of years past hasn't had.
Yeah, so that's just my concern. Or that's one of my many concerns, but it is still the most excited Pixel product I've been for out of all the range since 2016 with the first one. So I'm willing to still give it a shot. It's a flat display. It's a high refresh display, which I'm a big fan of, and great camera output in terms of the final pictures, But it would just be eager to see if they've kind of maybe, I don't know if they've really pushed to improve it, or maybe gone with a if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing, and maybe they might get caught out, and they might not be as far ahead as everyone because maybe they just relaxed. Maybe, you never know. I don't know. Maybe that's something I've got in my mind, or maybe they have gone back and just pushed it even further, just like how Apple did it with Smart HDR, as well as now Deep Fusion and all these other things, with like how the selfie camera has extended dynamic range at 4K 30, and then you've got 4K 60 with extended dynamic range on the, it's like you could tell like they just went brute force. Have Google done that, or have they kind of, we're already ahead, so there's no point in trying. We're just going to brush up a couple of things, and people might be surprised that it is probably still the best camera output for photos, but maybe it's not as far ahead as we were expecting. Maybe that's something to put at the back of your mind. Or it might be that, they were doing some stuff and they've got some real things to really show off that only the hardware leaks could really put down, but the software side of things, this is what we're telling you we've done to really go ahead of the competition when it comes to final output.
I think we talk a lot about stills with the Pixel, but I do think the Pixel has very, very good video. Video is not top much good. I think it's good.
The video stabilization is very good.
Video stabilization is good, but video features not so much. I mean, not having 4K 60 wasn't really something that was benefiting them.
That was a chipset issue, isn't it? So
no,
I don't think it wasn't. It wasn't a chipset.
Not last
year.
It was
on the 845.
Yeah.
845 can do.
It can do it.
UHS-II.
Yeah, it can do it.
I didn't know that. I thought it could only do 30.
That's what was quite controversial at the time, because a lot of the people using the 845 were easily getting UHS-II.
And it wasn't even just that. Like, this is what I mean about where Apple brute forced it, right? If you look at, without manual mode, like what was happening on the LG, out of the box, the iPhone is probably one of the only cameras that is doing proper stabilization at 4K 60, which most Android phones have struggled to do any form of proper stabilization at 4K 60. You can't tell a difference in the drop in stabilization going 4K 60 to 4K 30 or 24. You see, so this is what I mean about as an overall package, their fused image stabilization is really good, but the video features actually as a collective just wasn't. Like, they were still doing slow-mo at a low resolution compared to the competition. They weren't doing high frame rate. You know, the video quality output in terms of like the microphones as well wasn't really that great. It was okay.
Awful, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't really, you know, so you couldn't, this is where for me, I could never hold the Pixel as the best phone to have a camera, because it was just one metric that you could look at. A single camera that does automatic video photos very well in the end result. But the actual experience, right, the shutter lag was quite slow compared to other flagships at that price point. The bugs, using it, the camera UI was actually still very good. It was okay.
I like the camera.
Yeah, you know, but the actual using experience is like what you were saying with the Essential phone. Maybe not as bad as the Essential phone, right? But it was like, come on, man, at this price, you know, I'll rather have a camera that just works in terms of usability and gives me a very okay to very good than to a camera experience that's frustrating to use. But then when I do decide to like get over the frustration, I get great pictures at the end, you know, because people just don't like to be burdened with using stuff, you know? So I guess we'll see once we get there. But yeah, I'm going to wrap this up because it's been a long one. It's been worth doing a long one, but the technical issues at the beginning flipping jarred my soul. But guys, as always, man, thank you so much for joining. Again, look out for the cut down series as well throughout the week. I'll have each topic shortened, condensed, even edited nicely for you guys to chew through them. But yes, for the replay crew, I will have all the coverage and all the videos of, you know, Damien, Ryan, Tom, you know, Dave, you know, all the guys that I managed to get to the event to help and actually came themselves as well. Their coverage on the 70 series, all down below. And I'll have a timestamp of when the stream actually starts as well, so that you can skip right to when the topics began. So much love, signing out, and we will catch you next time.